Hi everyone, I'm really excited to share this lovely tutorial with you all today on how to letter and draw this beautiful happy birthday card design. I absolutely love it and it shouldn't take that long to create. You'll need some brush pens for this and I'll be using Tombow pens specifically for this. I absolutely love Tombow as a brand for brush calligraphy. These Tombow Dual Brush Pens were the very first pens that I tried for doing calligraphy in the first place, like 10 years ago, and I stuck with it. So these are really dear to my heart. I used to mainly use these pens because my style was quite like thick and chunky looking and bold. And then I switched to like thinner, finer tip pens, which are still amazing. And I really, really love the colors they come in, and it's just so much fun. And they definitely make your calligraphy a bit more elegant looking because the tip is a bit thinner. So yeah, really exciting. So as part of their creative collective campaign, they've sent me some lovely pens, and I just wanted to put them to good use and show you what you can create. So one of my favorite things about Tombow is that their colors are just so dreamy. So there's so many beautiful like pastel looking colors that I love using for drawing specifically. And I just wanted to guide you through creating this. So let's get started. So let's organize our supplies before we get started. So I'll need some sort of a card, and I'm just using some watercolor paper that I trimmed to this size and folded into half. And I'll be using these beautiful colors by Tombow. So I've got some pale pink, pale blue, some orange, and this beautiful shade of green that's more like a mossy green. And I'll also use this brown fine tip pen, which is called Tombow Fudenosuke. So this is lovely because it's got a fine tip. It's not as big, it's not as thick. And this will help us create like really nice, like elegant looking calligraphy. You can achieve beautiful contrast between thick and thin. And for drawing, we'll use these thicker tip pens that are called Tombow Dual Brush Pens. You'll also need a pencil and an eraser, and these again are from Tombow. And I love the color of these. I'm not gonna lie, and they are really good quality as well. It's always nice to have these supplies for the planning process of the card, which is something we're going to begin with. So the first thing I always do when lettering greeting cards is mark the center line of my card. So this can be really rough. You don't have to measure it out. You can just eyeball it really, but just having those lines is so helpful. And you can also just add a little line at the top, bottom, and on each side to mark the edge. So you know you're not going past that edge. And that'll just help you see like a little frame around your calligraphy, which again is so helpful, especially when you're doing something like this completely freehand. And then we can go ahead and just do like a rough sketch of our calligraphy. So obviously this is just monoline. I'm just using a pencil to do like a rough design of happy birthday. And this is all about kind of the spacing and positioning. I'm just making sure that this is centered, that I'm happy with how it sits. And you might need to do this a few times. Sometimes that's why you're using a pencil. Sometimes you'll realize that maybe you need to kind of move something to one side a little bit more. I just want you to know that that's normal, and that's why we're using a pencil so we can refine. So for me, the first word was a bit too much to the right, I think. So I'm going to try doing it again and try to position it a bit more to the left. So the word birthday is a really long word, so it kind of wants to start where the center line is. There we go. So that looks good. And I'm quite happy with the positioning here. And this is where we're going to go in and use a brush pen to go over our pencil line. And I'm just being really careful, going really slowly, focusing on my technique, picking up my pen often, trying to think of each letter as shapes. And I'm doing a bit of bouncy style calligraphy here. So it's definitely quite bouncy, which means that I'm stretching certain letters below this imaginary baseline that I have here. So the letter A, you can see how the downstroke of the letter A has stretched kind of lower down and then bounced back up. And I'm focusing on longer entry and exit strokes like the letter Y at the end. See how long is the stroke at the end. And then I'm starting the word birthday. And again, focusing on a bit of a bounce. So the letter H is quite bouncy. I'm bouncing that last downstroke of the letter below the baseline. And then focusing on the letter Y again at the end. and try to extend that exit stroke of the letter Y. And I love overlapping the cross line of the letter T over the letters H and D as well. That looks quite fun. It's something I've never done before, but recently I've just been really enjoying doing that. It can look really effective. And the thing is that when you're using watercolor paper with brush pens, sometimes you'll notice that you just need to go over and maybe fine tune and correct a few bits, especially your downstrokes can look a little bit textured. That's very normal. It's just because the paper is textured. But I wanted to use watercolor paper because I'm going to be doing like a bit of kind of drawing and blending technique. There are lots of different watercolor papers, and Tombow actually does their own paper, so you can always use that for cards as well. So yeah, I'm just going over some of the downstrokes, just refining them slightly. It does want to look handmade. I think it looks beautiful when it's still handmade. So I'm just going to leave it there and I'm going to get rid of all the lines, all the pencil lines. So you can wait for your brush pen to dry properly before you rub it out, before you rub the pencil lines out. So I'm just being gentle here and just carefully rubbing everything out so you can see my design clearly. And it does look fairly scented. I'm quite happy with this. And when I was rubbing the pencil lines out, I feel like some of the color maybe faded a little bit. I don't know, maybe it's just in my head, but I'm just going over some of the downstrokes again just to darken them slightly so that it looks a bit more effective. And that looks quite nice. Just really gently. We don't want to overdo this because it can really just ruin the design. So, really gently. Okay, so let's start drawing. We're going to begin with this orange pen. I'm actually going to use the fine tip. So the dual brush pen means that there's a fine tip and there's like a thicker tip of the pen. So I'm just using this fine tip to draw some little circles, which will be the centers of the flowers. So think of these as daisies. So you're just doing like a big orange center of the flower, and to help us draw these flowers from different perspectives, from different angles, we can alternate the way we draw the circle. We can do ovals, we can do semicircles, and this will really help with the movement of the flowers, and they'll just look a bit more natural rather than all being the same. So just maybe try focusing on that. And then we're going to grab like a lighter color. I'm just using this pastel pink because it's very, very close to white. And if I think of daisies, I'm thinking of white petals, but obviously we can't do white and white. But pastel colors like this, maybe even grey, can look really, really good. And I'm doing a bit of blending here. So I'm starting to draw these individual petals. And I'm starting by just going over that orange circle slightly and like dragging the color out of it. So I'm imagining that I'm kind of dragging the color out of there. And it just helps to create this beautiful like bleeding effect. So it looks like a bit of orange gets into pink. It looks like we're using watercolors, but we're not. So it's really, really fun. I love because these pens are water based. It's really easy to blend them. Now, if you want to get rid of that orange on your light color pen, just grab another page and just clean your brush by just doing a few strokes on a separate piece of paper, and you'll see how it returns to its normal light color. And we're going to carry on, just go around all of these circles. And I'm doing another one here, and this one's just going to be slightly differently positioned. So you can see that these petals look a bit more droopy. And I'm going to make the side petals a bit more narrow and kind of imagine that they're like folding down a little bit. So you can try applying pressure when you do the middle of the petal. You can definitely just drag your brush pen kind of across and flatten it. Use the belly of the brush mainly when you do the petals, and then use the tip to maybe shape it a bit better to make it look like a petal when you're shaping it. So that's a good trick. And I love how you can play with the pressure when you use these pens. So I'm just going to return to this one and maybe just do like really little petals at the top there. So again, it just looks as if you're looking at it from the side, which is fun. So they don't all have to look the same. Whilst this one here as well is kind of different. It's even more angled and that looks really good. You can even leave some white areas if you like. That can always look like natural highlights. That can be really pretty. And again, I'm just going back and maybe dragging a bit more paint after that orange middle and Remember, if you need to clean your brush, if you're starting another flower, just just do a few strokes on another page to get that orange off. The petals do want to look quite airy, quite kind of big and thick and fluffy looking. I think this was my favorite so far. It just turned out really fluffy. So I'm just doing like a really thick downstroke, and then when I go up, I just kind of add a lot of movement to create like a fun shape. So a thick downstroke, and then like wiggle your brush to bring it back up in this like natural way. They don't have to look uniform or like perfect or any particular shape. Let's try doing another one here where we make the front petals a bit shorter and a bit more like wide looking. And again, this just gives us a beautiful perspective here. They all look slightly different, which is really, really fun. And if you need to correct anything, you can just use the tip of the brush to carefully shape them. And there we go. So that's pretty much the end result when it comes to these flowers. And you can keep playing. You can blend a bit more. You can always just go over them again, especially kind of focusing on the center there and getting a bit more of that orange into each petal, especially at the base, because that's where it will be the darkest. And that can look really good. And you can take this as far as you like. And the next step will be to do some leaves and stems of the flowers. So I've grabbed this green pen and I'm just using the fine tip of it. So I am trying to extend like a line. It can also be like a broken up line if it goes through your calligraphy to draw like a long stalk of the flower. And this can be done, in so many different ways. It can go into the edge of the card, it can go through your calligraphy like this. It can You can even do some that are upside down if you like. So just try to find like a nice spot for it to come from so it looks natural. When you look at your flower head, just imagine where would the stalk come from. And then we can add some leaves. So now I switched to the thicker side, to the brush side of the pen. And I'm starting with like a really thin line, and then I'm doing the outline of the leaf before I color it in. So a quick little outline, or you can even just go up and down to get this really kind of naturally shaped leaf. If you think of daisies, they have that like jagged leaf shape. They can also look a bit sharp. So I'm kind of trying to show that, and you can always think of it as playing with pressure. So you go up and down to create that effect. Or you can also just do the outline and then color it in with the belly of the brush. I really love the way these colors work together. It looks really beautiful. And I especially love kind of detaching these leaves from the actual stalk. So I think it really goes well with this drawing style. So everything is quite loose. They can just hang in the air, really, just come out of wherever you like. And you can keep adding lots and lots of these until you fill in your card. There's one more thing we'll do. We'll add in a little blue flower detail. But in general, this is like the main element, and this is what we want to fill our card with. So go ahead and find any gaps that you can fill with the leaves, make it nice and busy looking, and then we'll do some blue flowers here and there as a final detail. And when you finish with the leaves, let's go ahead and grab this blue color or any other pastel looking color. And we are just going to do like clusters of these three little flower heads. And I'm just going up and down and kind of connecting all the upstrokes and downstrokes to the same base. So you can see how I'm just kind of going up, down, and coming back to the same base. And we're going to leave them as they are, and then we're just going to add in little stalks, little stems to them as well. And that'll look really good. So you just fill in any gaps. This is like a nice filler detail. So if you have any blanks, like big gaps, you can fill them in. And try to position them similarly to this because we will be kind of joining them up. And imagine that these all come from the same kind of branch. So there we go. So I'm grabbing my green pen again and I'm using the fine tip and I'm just joining these all up in the most natural way possible. So always kind of imagining how they would look in nature and trying to add a lot of movement there as well. Remember, some of these can come from the right or from the left or even be upside down. That'll look really, really good. And there we go. If you wanted, you could add like a little dot detail. You could always do like three dots to just brighten it all up a little bit. And I'm just doing this in blue. And that just adds a bit of freshness to it all, I think. And it looks really, really lovely. I hope you're happy with yours. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Give this a like, subscribe to my channel for more tutorials like this in the future, and good luck with your calligraphy. I would love to see what you create. We have a Calligraphy Beginners Facebook group where you can share your work, or you can always tag me on Instagram. I would really, really love to see what you create. Thanks so much, everyone, and well done.